To the audience, if you have specific questions here, just raise your hand and I will come down with the microphone to you. Okay, first of all, could you please introduce ANCAP and its main business areas?
Sure. Hello. I'm delighted to be here. ANCAP is a national oil and gas company, which is almost 90 years old. We are also diversified into biofuels and cement. And as an oil company, we are really looking to embracing the energy transition. We form part of a group of national companies and work closely together with the Ministry of Energy for deploying an energy policy that's really forward-looking.
Okay, it's interesting. So you're already diverse markets in your view. Could you just shortly describe the energy system in Uruguay? Because from our European perspective, we have no idea about that.
Sure, yes. This is the idea is to present our country because I think it's an example of a proactive energy planning and transitioning. Uruguay is in the first, in the 10% percentile in the Energy Transition Index, recently published by the World Economic Forum. So we are really developing a reliable, energy secure, affordable energy matrix. And one of the highlights is that Uruguay already produces almost all of its electricity from renewables. So last year, we ran 98% on renewables. Of course, now the transport sector is one area where there's a huge opportunity to deepen the decarbonization of the energy matrix, and that is what we're trying to achieve now with new plans.
Okay, so you mentioned that you already have more than 90% of the power production is already from renewable energies. This is really interesting because this is much more than in Germany, for example. What were the initial conditions that led to this high share of renewables? Is this all hydropower plants, or where do this power come from?
Okay, historically we were high on hydro. Nowadays it's about 50% hydro for power generation. But the interesting thing is in 2010, there was a multi-partisan energy policy developed, and all the parties committed to it. And that provided the framework for long-term investments. It's the security all investors ask for when they go into these new technologies. And the result was that in the last decade, less than that, wind, for instance, went from 0 to 1.5 giga, which is a lot for our country. We are just a 3.5 million population. And solar from 0 to 260 megawatts. So that brought up renewables, which also include biomass. 2 big paper mills have been built in Uruguay. The third is underway. And they provide their excess energy as biomass into the system.
Okay, and is there now still more potential for renewables? You already said the growing market of wind power plants and solar energy. What do you think, how big is the potential now?
Okay, for power generation, as we've said, we produce all of it from renewables, but the opportunity now comes from the structural surpluses that are available with this energy matrix. So every year there's about 2 terawatts that are installed capacity that is not used, 2 terawatt hour, sorry. And half of it is exported to neighboring countries. And we think that if we could use, say, 10% of that surplus and turn it into hydrogen, we could start using this energy to replace oil products, and that has a lot of value. For the transport sector as a business opportunity, but also to make a more reliable power generation, give it more flexibility, be able to store energy.
Okay, so the power generation is already fitting the demand of almost 100%, and the surplus has to be curtailed or to be exported. So I hear about that. The transport sector still relies on the diesel and about the costly oil imports. What is now your concept to change that? Where do you want to go?
Well, the transport sector still accounts for 37% of primary energy supply. And then on the demand side, it uses 27% of the energy and produces more than 60% of the carbon emissions. So we think we need to start exploring, and we are trying to develop a pilot project. We have already some deployment of electric battery vehicles, and that is mainly for the urban uses. But there is a sector that's very interesting, which is the intercity buses. And also, there is a big demand for trucks, yes? We have like 36,000 trucks, and many of them, for instance, from the plantations to the paper mills, there is an interesting business opportunity there to start using hydrogen for this kind of uses. Of course, we know the technology is in its early stages, and one of the reasons we are here is because we would love for OEMs to come to our country and to test the performance of their units in the real world.
Okay, and with the plan that is set up already, you say that you have good conditions and reliable long-term perspectives to make do investments in Uruguay. And maybe let's get a little bit more into detail. Did ANCAP already set up some milestones or some plans or some investments already in the field of hydrogen production or hydrogen technology?
We are starting now, because now we see all these pieces falling into place, where we have the long-term macroeconomic framework, the experience with renewables, and also we have set up a multi-party team. So we have the authorities, the public policy makers, we have the electricity company, they're all here as part of our delegation, and we have us, the oil company. What we bring here is our own industrial experience. We produce and consume hydrogen in the refinery already, as is obvious. We have the customer interface with a well-established brand all over the country. And now we are targeting a first pilot project in intercity buses. And this will be then the basis, the information that we will use to work on a longer-term hydrogen roadmap for Uruguay.
Oh, that sounds really great. So the framework is already there. You do already a lot of networking, as you said. Now, where exactly do you need partnership, and why do you think people should now invest in Uruguay?
So, just summing up a little bit of all the things I've tried to convey, I think Uruguay is a really investor-friendly country. We are really differentiated from our neighbors in the region, having the highest transparency indexes, the highest prosperity index. We attract FDI in relation to our GDP. We are the second in Latin America. Rule of law, especially also for the promotion and protection of investments. I think all that has helped all these infrastructure projects go ahead and provides long-term security. And then on the maturity of the energy system, I think it makes also, as you said, Uruguay unique. It's ahead of Germany, if you wish. And then the other thing is we're a small country, and you can have all the decision makers around the table very quickly, and we can make things happen. So I think it's the ideal place where you can show the deployment of green hydrogen. That's also an important thing. We don't want hydrogen produced from fossil fuels, yes, where you can deploy green hydrogen and show it to the world.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. You said the population is about 1.5 million?
3.5 million.
3.5, okay. But still, we have now in Europe some regions that focus on hydrogen also. And this region ranges from 500,000 to 1.5 million. So let's take two regions, and we have the population of Uruguay. So it's a nice idea to have the whole country developed, and all the partners are around and not that far away. Great idea. And but you said you still need some partners, or you're looking for investors. What do you expect from them?
Well, in general, we have different mechanisms where private investment come to the table. We need technology providers, project developers. But I think one key target we have is to see if we can attract truck manufacturers, OEMs. And on the longer term, I haven't mentioned, but there's a railroad project. And in the longer term, we could even think about a train driven by hydrogen. So this is our first time in the Hanover Messe. And we really want to send this message to the key hydrogen players that we have an interesting opportunity, and everyone's welcome to approach us and have a conversation.
Okay, great. So you invite everyone. And let's have a look on the people itself, maybe a little bit, because what we see here in Europe, especially in Germany, the people, they don't really see, or they don't really know something about hydrogen technology. What do you think? How is it in Uruguay? It can be a main driver if the people and the companies itself request this potential of the energy from hydrogen and hydrogen storage. Do you do this information? Do you give them to the people and to the companies? What's your strategy in this point?
So in Uruguay, fuels are a monopoly. So we are going to have to drive this. And for instance, in the case of electric battery vehicles, many tax incentives, import duty incentives have been put in place, and that has kick-started the market. And we expect the same thing would happen with hydrogen. There would need to be some policy instruments in place, but that's the way we do it in Uruguay.
All right. So are there any questions from the audience? And I think the time is also far. Yeah, thanks a lot for this interesting introduction of Uruguay. Very interesting to have these points here. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mrs. Otero.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, and yeah, maybe where, Mrs. Otero, what I almost forgot, where can we find you here on the Hannover Fair? Please tell us.
We are everywhere, but we are staying only until tomorrow. But then the easiest way to contact us is through the Uruguayan embassy in Germany. They will know where to find us.
Okay, and if someone has questions right now...
I can leave some cards here at the desk as well.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.